Hey guys, my name's Ika Del Cruz, and today I'm going to be teaching you about making a basic globe animation. So as you can see, I've started by creating my new composition. And once you've got your whole timeline set up to how long you want it, in my case it's about 5 seconds, you can import all of the files that you're going to need. In my case, I created a background, and at the same time, I created a PNG of the continents of the planet. You can use Adobe Illustrator or even Photoshop to do this. So I'm going to bring it into composition, and if you notice, it's not exactly up to scale. So you can scale it down just dragging the points. And because it's blue, I'm going to be using the Effects tab and looking for Fill. This adds a layer of color over what you already have, so I can change it from blue to green. So once I've got about the color that I need, I'm going to center it just so I can see it, and then look for CC Sphere in the effects panel. So once you found it, drag it onto your image, and you'll see this panel appear. Now for CC Sphere, if you notice, it's a little small, so we're going to be adjusting the radius just so it fits within our screen. And it's actually looking pretty good, except for the fact that if you look at the back, you can actually see the other continents that are supposedly out of view, because this is actually on full at the moment. It's rendering it completely. What we're going to do is look at the render and then change it to outside instead. That way, you only see the parts in the front and not those at the back. So once you've got the basic setup, you're going to be changing the light. There's a whole bunch of different aspects to this panel. They're very basic though. You've got your light intensity, how strong the light's going to be, the light color, if you want it white, yellow, like the sun. Then you've got light height, which tells you where your light source is coming from, how high or low. Then you've got light direction. There's a dial on the bottom of this, and you can use it to change the way that the light is shining on your planet or on your globe. After that, we've got shading. Well, you've got ambient, which adjusts the overall shading of your planet or of your light. And then you've got diffuse. Diffuse is basically how the light is spread out throughout your planet. Then you got specular, which doesn't actually do much in my case. It just adds sort of like a spot in the middle. Roughness, metal, and reflective are all things I don't need. So I'll leave it up to you if you want to play around with those settings and see if it adds texture to your planet. Now, what we're going to be doing next is changing the way that our globe moves. So if you notice at the top, there's something called rotation. You've got your X and your Y axis and your Z. Now your X axis is the horizontal line. Your Y axis is the vertical line. And what I'm doing right now is I'm changing the rotation of X, just to show you how it's going to move. And then because we're going to be moving our globe the way that it actually moves, we're going to be adjusting the rotation on the Y axis. But if you wanted to see how you could change the way that the planet's going to be moving, you can actually play around with those settings. Now what I'm going to do is maybe find a starting point. So in this case, I kind of want to focus on where we are on the planet. And we're going to create our first keyframe. To do that, just click the little watch icon next to rotation Y. If you want to find your actual keyframes and see them, if you expand your layer, you'll notice a little black dot. Keep expanding. And you're going to find it there. That's your first keyframe. Now next, I decide, okay, maybe I want it to be rotating the whole 5 seconds. So I'm going to go to the very end where I want to set my next keyframe. And I'm going to turn the planet maybe 3 times or 2.5 for this. So just keep turning it and then see how many times you want it to go. So I'm kind of playing around to see how it might look or where I want it to end. Once you've got that, it actually automatically creates a keyframe for you, so you won't have to do that yourself. Now remember that when you play it, by pressing spacebar, it might not move the exact same way it's supposed to because it's still rendering, especially right now. So don't be surprised if your globe is suddenly moving at a really, really slow pace. The preview will actually depend on how well your laptop can handle the rendering. So for some people, it might be faster. For others, it might be extremely slow. So once you've got that, you've got a preview of your planet, and it actually looks pretty good. right now. Once you're pretty satisfied with the way that your continents look, we're going to create a new composition. Same thing, just keep it the same. And I'm going to be putting in my background. So what I did was create a gradient on Photoshop and I made an image. It's not exactly up to scale, so again, scale it. Adjust according to how you want it to look. And then bring in your composition. I prefer to keep my composition separate because it makes it a lot easier for me in general, especially when I'm working on something with a lot of layers. So it might differ for you. If you're only making this globe animation, you can actually keep it in one composition. What we're going to do next is that we're going to create a new shape layer. Right click on your timeline or in this area and then click new and then shape layer. You've got a shape tool. Q is the shortcut. You can keep pressing Q until you get the ellipse tool. Make sure that you've selected it to be on a shape, the star if you notice there, and not the mask. If it's a mask, it'll be red. And then you can resize it, scale it, put it under your globe. And if you notice, actually there are times where it's not going to be perfect. So this is also a lot of fiddling. There's a lot of fiddling going on here. Changing of the light, changing the way that your light looks, especially given your background. So again, this depends on you. Once you've got your globe set up, it'll just look like something like this. Now some of you might be wondering, why didn't I just make a rectangle or a circle and then add the sphere effect? Well, this is what happens. It turns into an egg. So I find it easier to just use a regular circle or a shape, and then you can just add shading if you want. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to parent the composition 1 layer on the shape layer. That way when I move the shape layer, the composition layer moves along with it. And there you have it. You've got a working spinning globe. But now what if, for example, you wanted to create something like a globe or a planet that wasn't Earth and you don't have the continents on it? You can actually make anything into a sphere. For example, I've got this image of a lot of paint strokes on a square, on a rectangle, and you can actually make it into a planet yourself. Just resize it, do the same thing, adjust the light, change the ambient, change the light height. Of course, this isn't going to be perfect. There's going to be a line when it moves. So in this case, you're going to have to find an image that's seamless. So it's actually really cool how much you can do with this effect. You can use it to create the whole solar system if you wanted to. But for today, I think we'll end it there. And that's about it. Thanks for joining me, guys, and I hope to see you next time.